You know that I like collecting things. You know that probably if you follow my stuff, you know that I like what the term is unusual people, people that are shaped unusually, or just they call them very special people. And like my best friend Sadie, she was 4'2", and I had a couple of friends that were smaller, little people they call them, and also I really like giant people too. That's what the term is, giant. That is well known slang. Probably there's lots of medical definitions for giantism, I guess. I have here an artifact, and this is a ring. Let me see what that looks like. And you can see that has the initials JP on it. And that belonged to Johan Peterson, who was a giant from Iceland, who grew up to be. It's so funny because you look on Wikipedia. Some people say 9 feet tall. Some people say 11 feet tall. He was realistically probably about 7'6" or 7'7" when he died. It was recently in the International Showman's Museum in Florida, Riverview, I think. It's not too far from Gibsonton, which is well known for. The carnival people would retire there for the winters, and they had a display on Johan at the museum, and he was 71 years old when he died in 1984. This ring, again with the sizes, this ring they say is a size either a 20 or a 25, depending on who you ask. Either way, this is a large ring. Now, today's story is about another man who was a very, very tall man by the name of Matthew McCrory.
Wow, look how big you are. Whoa. Son of a gun. And I'm not shaking your hand either.
Don't, it hurts.
I'm not shaking his hand because I heard he puts you in a death grip. Hey, you're pretty muscular for a world's tallest guy.
Jeez.
Man.
Matthew McCrory. Most people know from the movie Big Fish and a lot of other movies, actually Rob Zombie movies, and I'll tell you more about that. And actually, I think he still holds the Guinness Book of World Records for the largest or the tallest actor ever. But we'll go on to that because he has another record too. We'll go on to that in a little bit. But Johan Peterson died in 1984 at the age of 71, which is an exceptionally long period of time for someone who has that sort of condition. Now, Matthew was born in 1973 in Westchester, Pennsylvania. He was a musician, a law student, an actor, a bouncer. Actually, he was a bouncer in a bar. He'd be pretty good at that as an intimidating person at the door of a bar. And he wasn't the world's tallest man, but he's the world's tallest actor, as I mentioned a little while ago. He was 24 inches. He weighed 15 pounds when he was born. And I read one account. Again, these are all over the place. I read one account that he was born with two teeth in his mouth. I have a feeling that that's not true, but these facts are all over the place when it comes to these people. I did my best to narrow it down to the most factual report I could. His siblings were of average size. He had a brother and 2 sisters, and his parents, and they were all of sort of average size. And he says that when he was young, he went through all the tests, pituitary, thyroid, and no one could isolate what his condition was, why he continued to grow. Some people say he had the condition acromegaly, which is what a lot of people who have that condition have. But he himself says,
actually, I don't have anything.
You don't?
When I was born, I had everything checked, and they couldn't figure it out.
Really? You just kept growing?
They just chalked it up to 1 in a million.
And after the age of 12, they sort of just gave up and never went further into that. He was 5 feet tall before he started the first grade. He played drums in high school and was in a band that played local grade schools. And at that time in high school, he was already 6'4". Now, in college, he went to college. He studied pre-law and criminal justice at Widener University in Delaware, 25 minutes from Westchester, where he lived. And his fellow students, I was reading his listing on Find a Grave, and a couple of his fellow students left comments saying he was just, Matt, they called him, was just a funny guy, a really, really kind man, and a really great sense of humor, and a really deep voice too. If you've ever heard him talk, his voice was really, it sounded like it was fake, because it was so deep.
Because it's pretty weird when you first see you. I mean, you're so big. Sure. Have you tried to get into show business? Like, you know, remember Lurch? He was kind of...
I remember that, yeah.
Remember that guy?
I've got a guy My friend Dave Kinch is working for me. He's doing everything he can. And
Let me tell you something, man. If I was casting like a new Addams Family, you're in, dude.
But he ultimately grew up to be 7'6" and weighed 310 pounds. And a lot of times he was asked, well, it must be a tough life, must be a really rough life to be that tall. And he said, no, not really. I enjoy it, actually. He was asked if he had the choice to be smaller or taller. He would definitely prefer taller, which is what he had. And he worked as a bouncer at a bar called 15 North in Westchester. He was a local curiosity, but everybody knew him already. So they would say, hey, Matt, how you doing, to him? And so he said they kind of got over the fact that he was unusual. Although a lot of people knew him for that reason, it just grew out of being an immediate anomaly, an immediate sort of special thing. Here's Matt, and maybe if they had a relative or a friend with them, say Matt's the really tall guy. But he says amongst the people he saw on a regular basis, it just wasn't any big deal anymore because everyone got used to him being around. Now, he did say that he didn't know his own strength. People would warn other people not to shake his hand because sometimes he would hurt people, accidentally, obviously. And he said one time, he patted a friend of his on the back who said it was actually quite painful. So he did say that, or uncomfortable. He did say that sometimes a person like him didn't know his own strength. Now, in 1994, he read in the Guinness Book of World Records that the largest foot holder was a size 23. And he thought, well, I've got that beat. So he contacted the Guinness Book of World Records people. They came out and measured him with his bare feet.
Matthew McCrory has been big all his life. At birth, he was 2 feet tall. When he graduated kindergarten, he was over 5 feet tall. And today he stands a towering 7'6". But it's not his height that makes him a world record holder. Matthew has an even bigger feet.
the Guinness Book of Records for the biggest feet, which size 29 and a half, which is why, of course, Dr. Scholl's, being the foot care people they are, I got involved with them.
Now, when he became the world's largest foot person, of course, that became a curiosity and all over America. It was in a lot of newspapers, and people wanted him for shows to show off his large feet. And, of course, Howard Stern got wind of that, and he guested on the Howard Stern show. And Howard Stern, you know the way he was, I mean, it was pretty crass, and really crass, actually. And he was asking Matthew all sorts of things like toilet habits and, you know, how big his, you know what was, and just, I mean, sort of the stuff that maybe a lot of people might think about, but never have the nerve to ask. And Howard was, went straight for it.
Have you been laid yet? Have you gotten a girl yet? And
is everything in proportion?
Like you have exaggerated, like your hands are huge. So do you have a really exaggerated Schwanz, or did the circus ever call you? Yeah, and imagine being drunk and seeing this guy. It'd be wild. Remake of the Addams Family, any of that.
Circus.
There's Lurch. Do me a favor, go like this. You rang.
You rang.
It's cause when you move your bowels.
Oh God! What size condom does he use?
I'll tell you something. If I was a doctor, first thing I'd do is pull off your pants. Your farts must be frightening.
I'm actually a pretty normal guy, other than being 7'4".
And Matthew handled it all with very graceful, and handled it with humor, and he was very factual as much as he wanted to be, and he was very, it's not really none of your business without saying it's none of your business to them when it came to really personal things. But he had to have been used to it, and he said he'd rather people came up to him and asked him directly as opposed to standing over there and kind of looking at him and whispering to whoever they were with or wondering, just come on up. I've read that about other people too, how they prefer just come on up and ask me whatever you want to ask, within reason, of course, because I'm sure that there were some things that he was annoyed with because he got, like things like toilet habits or size, things like that. But he did say, and Howard, it was interesting, Howard got some interesting answers from him. Said that he lost his virginity at the age of 15. He said that some women, He's been with women who liked him for who he was, and he's also been with women who found him a curiosity and wanted to see what it was like. So, but he knew fully what was going on, and I don't think he suffered fools. I don't think he would allow himself to be humiliated. I think and he's good-natured, really a nice-natured person. But then he did say, if anyone's got something to say or ask me, please just come on up and ask me. I don't bite, is exactly what he said. Now, he says he can't see any downside at this point. The Howard Stern interview, he's only 23 at this time, and he hadn't quite stopped growing yet. I think he had to grow another 3 or 4 inches after he was in Howard Stern. He says, I can't think of any downside to being tall. He said that the only thing he has a problem with is that finding a tailor, because he was constantly changing, and the tailor, changing the inseam. He could go to large people shops and get a large waisted pair of pants, but not length. And he said that was difficult to keep getting. His mother would make his clothing for him, sewing like 2 pairs of jeans for a leg, that kind of a thing. But he said that was the most complicated thing. I mean, people would say, well, it must be a tough life. He's like, no, not at all. He says he's never really had any problems growing up, and he could hold his own, too, because I know Howard Stern said something like, I could beat you in baseball or basketball. And he says, I doubt you could beat me in anything, really. He's good-natured about it, but very matter-of-fact about it, too. After law school, he decided he just didn't have the passion for that career. And he said himself, there are a lot of things you could do with a law degree background, but I just didn't have the passion for it. So because of the attention he was getting in the media, because he was on the Maury Povich show. And
when you see him, you will honestly say, I cannot believe my eyes. Everybody, please welcome Matt McGrory. Now look at this.
He was supposed to be on Oprah Winfrey, but she ran out of time, and he was there. That's got to suck to be there. He wasn't from there, and flying to Chicago, and sorry, no time for you, but you could leave one of your shoes behind, and we'll put it on display. That is what happened. So that kind of sucks too, when you're supposed to be on a show and you go through all that kind of business. But Oprah wasn't Oprah yet at that point. She just had a normal talk show. Anyway, but he knew that people were interested in him, so he went to L.A. and he was in L.A. for about 6 months before he got his first feature film. He was in a few music videos, one of those blink if you miss it video things. He was in Iron Maiden's The Wicker Man. He was in a Marilyn Manson video called Coma White, and a Blondie video called Good Boys. But all with the circus theme. He was also in a movie called Bubble Boy.
He said, be quiet or the doctor will hear you.
Who are you?
They call me the human Sasquatch.
And, of course, most famously, he was in Big Fish. He played Carl the Giant to Ewan McGregor as the star of Big Fish, which is a really touching movie. And if you have father issues, that's a tough movie to sit through. But it's a very, very good movie. And he played Carl the Gentle Giant, who Ewan McGregor's character, refused to be intimidated by. Now, Big Fish was actually filmed on Jackson Lake Island in Alabama, near Millbrook, Alabama. And not that long ago, Jordan of Jordan the Lion, the legendary YouTuber, he and I went there, and the city, the little village that they built for Big Fish is still there. You can walk around it and look at the buildings and stuff like that. And it's really pretty cool. And they have a cool picture of Matthew there as well. But these trees are left here from the production. You can see it; they're just wire sculptures sprayed with that styrofoam stuff. It's pretty sturdy though, because the goats are all over this thing, but for some reason they're not right now. But you can see it's that spray kind of plaster stuff, and it's amazing it's weathered it, and it's amazing all these buildings have weathered it. So to get the Spectre, you get out of the evil forest where you don't die because it's not your time yet, passing this glorious display of shoes, which mean a totally different thing here in Spectre. And this was the town. So when Ewan McGregor ran from the giant to do some exploring, the giant didn't think he'd come back for him. Ewan McGregor ended up here, stayed for a while, and then met up with the giant again. It's amazing that this set is still here. Oh, this is so cool that it's all still here.
This is the mayor's house.
There's Matthew when he played Carl the Giant in Big Fish. And there's a scene in Big Fish where Ewan McGregor wants to acquire the ownership of Helena Bonham Carter's house, Jenny. And the house actually stood, there's the model of it, stood right here. And there's a point in the movie where the house is shown very, very dilapidated. You can see the 4 columns from front of the house right here. There they are in the film, and they are still here. That's all that remains, and that those posts actually are the supports from the water. You can see where they would have been there, but the house fell apart. But here's Matthew actually pushing the house. You can see it was all crooked, and he's actually pushing the whole thing forward. A lot of forced perspective in this movie. Tons, when it comes to Matthew, tons of forced perspective to make him seem even more giant than he actually was. But you can see how he pushed the house, and that was actually on hinges. And here are those columns, and you can see at the very top are those hinges still today. It's kind of cool that they left it here. This park is incredible. It is it is beautiful, man. It is gorgeous here, and there are the hinges if you look up top. And of course, there's a really picturesque bridge in town that is also it is an idyllic looking town. This is the bridge that Ewan McGregor and Matthew were walking across when they decided to leave the city. And this is from below, but God, is it gorgeous here. It's a weirdly sunny, gloomy day here in Los Angeles, and I am here on Dickens Street in Sherman Oaks. And I am here to see the last home of a man named Matthew McCrory, who I know him best as the giant from Big Fish. He was 7'6" tall. That's not very nice. And he was 32 years old when he died in his apartment here. Now, despite his appearance, he was a very, very soft-spoken man, very deep voice, as I mentioned before. He grew up to be 7'6", weighing 300 pounds, and had a 29.5-inch shoe. Now, he also appeared in a lot of horror movies. Devil's Rejects. He had an uncredited role in the movie Constantine, House of a Thousand Corpses, and of course, it was always the unusual person, a circus performer, he had names like Sasquatch and Tiny and Ogre was another one of them. So he had the tall alien. So you get the idea. I mean, everything that he did was as a special person, as a tall person. That was his thing, and he could hold his own in a film as far as acting goes. But that was his thing. He was a curiosity. He also ended up on television a couple of times. He was in The Middle, Malcolm in the Middle.
Mother, go.
Phil, I told you I was trying to keep it small. If I invited you, I'd have to invite the concession people, the ticket takers, even the transportation guys. I can't afford that. It was nothing personal. Of course you can deal.
He was in Charmed and Carnival. And he asked if he ever got tired of it all, and he said, "No, it's work. I'll take whatever work I can get. Now, because of his cult film status, he was a popular guest at horror film conventions and autograph shows, and he loved to meet his fans. This clip I'm going to show you is from a YouTube channel called Flashback Weekend, and it shows Matthew at a couple of shows, and it's clear that he's enjoying the attention, but it's also clear that his height was starting to strain his body.
Mr. Matt McGrory, a.k.a. Tiny.
I gotta tell you guys, as long as I've worked with Bill and Sid here, this is the longest I've ever held a microphone. I gotta say too, I really appreciate you guys coming out here and supporting us. Without you guys, what the hell would we be doing? Thank you very much. And hell yeah, go Chicago.
Yeah, his apartment was B, that's C. That's the manager's office. So that would be it. He said he slept in a full-size bed, which is like, oh my God, I couldn't even sleep in a full-size bed. I can barely fit in a queen-size bed. So a full-size bed, though, for someone who is 7'6", that's just wild to me. His apartments are only 700 square feet. The guy was 7'6". Now, it was said that he was told, or his parents were told, that it was unlikely he was going to live past his 25th year. We talked about Johann earlier, the other giant, lived to be 71, which is really weird. Robert Wadlow, who was a guy I did a video about, who is still the tallest man in the world, 8'11". Could you imagine 8'11"? Robert Wadlow died at 22. He's still the world's tallest man ever. And he was not expected to live past 25. He said, I just like to take it as it comes. Go where the wind blows me. I'm not going to plan. On Tuesday, August 9th of 2005, paramedics were called to the apartment he shared with his girlfriend, Melissa. According to the Associated Press, and most of the articles that were written about his death, said that paramedics responded and he was pronounced dead, which implies to me that paramedics pronounced him dead. And I didn't think paramedics could do that. I thought a doctor had to be there to pronounce death. And I asked my friend Julie, who is a paramedic, and she clarified this for me. I just found this interesting. She said, we call base hospital, wherever, they're the closest hospital probably to where the paramedics are responding, because of any advanced medical problem. We have to call our base hospital and give a report and see if there isn't a standing order, and they'll give us orders. Now, I didn't know what a standing order was, and she told me, it's a pre-approved written medical protocol, or a set of directions which allows paramedics to perform specific treatments or administer medications without a direct order from the base hospital physician at the moment. So if you're in full cardiac arrest and they aren't in rigor mortis, they would work on them for 20 minutes with standing orders. And if we get nothing, we call base and tell them what we've got. And the doctor at the base is actually the one who pronounces the death and the time of death. But if they are dead, we don't transport them. They stay where they are. And the family arranges the mortuary to come out. This is so interesting to me. But paramedics have no way of knowing if a person died of natural causes, which makes complete sense. That's sort of where I thought. He says if it was a painful, long, agonizing death of the person, who knows if a family member or somebody may have given them a little, a little push on their way to alleviate the pain, to put them out of their pain. So there's no way paramedics can know that. So an autopsy does have to be done, and by more than likely his primary care provider, and signed off on the death certificate, because he's from a doctor signed off on his death certificate because the doctor would be familiar with his medical status. So Robert McCrory ultimately died at the age of 32 of congestive heart failure. At the time of his death, it said that he was working on a movie called Andre, Heart of a Giant, about Andre the Giant, the wrestler turned actor. And it was to be directed by a director by the name of Drew Sky. I had a hard time finding Drew Sky, actually, and I did find an actor who went by that name. But this Andre the Giant, it said that Matthew filmed several scenes in this movie. A director said that the footage would be incorporated. They couldn't use the footage with Matthew. It would be incorporated into the film at the end credits, as sort of a tribute to Matthew McCrory. But the film was never released. In fact, a Reddit thread I found said that in 2020, they attempted to track down the information about the film and McCrory's footage, but users on Reddit reported that the movie's IMDb page has been removed and the search yielded no results. So if Matthew McCrory filmed footage, scenes for this Andre the Giant movie, which it said that he did, the footage is gone. Or it has never been used, and the movie was never made. And this Drew Sky, it looks like he's an actor now. So yeah, Matthew McCrory's final scenes, I guess, will never be seen, at least as far as I know. But as a tribute to Matthew, when the movie The Devil's Rejects was released on DVD, they did dedicate the film to him. And Matthew still holds the world record for the largest big toe at 5 inches, and his little toe 1.5 inches, which is pretty spectacular. And he's buried at St. Peter's and Paul Cemetery in Springfield, Pennsylvania, along with many sports legends, including basketball Hall of Famer Pitch and Paul Arizin, and newscasters and performers like Bobby Rydell and comedian John Pinette. Now, there is a forum and a Facebook page and a website that's still active or still online dedicated to Matthew, which is kind of nice. It's where I got some of this information from. And it's nice to see that he still has an online presence, considering, he died back in 2005. So that's 20 years? God, 20 years. He's been gone 20 years. But it's nice that they have these online presence websites for him, and also that cool village from Big Fish is still there in Alabama. And he wants the giant to eat his heart. I don't want to eat anybody. This gets so hungry. So Matthew played the giant in Big Fish, and this is the scene where they built a facade or a cave right there that the giant was living in, and Ewan McGregor comes up and offers himself up as a human sacrifice. Am I in your way, man? Beautiful spot. Don't be forgot. That's what it's all about, not to be forgotten. And yeah, so I guess we'll say thank you, Matthew McCrory, for all you did, for the humor and the curiosity, and just for being an all-around good guy and a good example as a human being. And we appreciate you. Rest in peace, and thank you all very much for your time and for your attention. And I just want to say, if you feel like supporting my page, which I really do appreciate, if you could see it in your heart to support it, it's a small monthly donation, but you get exclusive posts, photographs and information that I don't post anywhere else. And also videos are released a little bit earlier, and also a monthly Q&A that I do. People. I also communicate with everyone in there too. So if you feel like joining my Patreon page, there's a link below in the description of this video, and your patronage would be very much appreciated. That's how I make a living anymore. Or if you sit through an ad or two during these videos, that's how I make a living. So I appreciate you doing that. I appreciate your time. I appreciate your attention. And until next time.
You heard me.